This is a CBS News special report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in Washington. We are coming on the air with some breaking news. The federal indictment against Donald Trump was just unsealed. We have it right here. And now, for the first time, we are learning the details of the charges that were brought against the former president, all related to his handling of classified documents after leaving office. And we've learned something new. There are actually 38 counts against the president, including the unlawful retention of defense information, which is an Espionage Act charge. There are also charges of obstruction and conspiracy. This is the first time in American history that a former president has been criminally indicted by the Department of Justice. The former president posted a video last night proclaiming his innocence, and there are some big changes to his legal team. I want to bring in our chief election and campaign correspondent, Robert Costa. And as we are just looking through this indictment, one of the things that jumped out to me is that some of these classified documents that Trump took with him to Mar-a-Lago, in the words of this indictment, could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, and the safety of the United States military.
Nora, we've been carefully reading this document since it was unsealed moments ago, just a few minutes ago. What's so evident just in a few pages in is that this is the opposite of hush money payments. This is a deeply serious legal document putting a former president at the United States at the center of what the special counsel is alleging is a criminal conspiracy to secretly take classified material out of the Oval Office, bring it down to Mar-a-Lago, and not just put it in a basement, but page after page, Trump is going to his aides and saying, I want new tops for the boxes. I want to have the boxes to be reviewed personally by me. Trump is at the center, a former president directing people in a coordinated campaign to be evasive in terms of what he had on hand about highly sensitive military and national security matters from his presidency.
Want to show people, this is the first page of it, and we note that it's United States versus America against Donald Trump and Waltine Nauta. Now, this is his personal aide, his body man. Tell us why he's included.
He's included because he is alleged to have made false statements to federal investigators about his role and about what Trump did. And there's a real concern, as you can see from the special counsel, that Trump was not only evading the answers from the investigators, but Walt Nauta, this person who served in the U.S. military, was at Trump's side, was effectively, in the view of the special counsel, his accomplice in this widespread scheme. And this wasn't just something that happened overnight. Months and months of them holding back the documents. And this indictment also shows that Trump repeatedly talked about sensitive materials, documents that could have sources and methods on them that reveal how U.S. intelligence is gathered. This is something that's unprecedented in American history. To have an American president accused of effectively going against his own country by compromising documents of this nature.
Let's explain exactly what this is, because as this indictment alleges, these are documents that include defense and weapons capabilities of the United States. Also, information about United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack. This looks like some of the most sensitive United States information, classified information. And as this indictment alleges that at least on 2 occasions in 2021, Trump showed these classified documents to others. One time at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, and another time Trump showed a representative of his political action committee these documents. These individuals did not have security.
And there's something very important also to add here. This is not just about retainment of classified material. It's also about an allegation of obstruction of an ongoing federal investigation. Very quickly, from page 21, you have conversations between Trump and his lawyer. Normally, in any case, we never have a prism into what attorneys are discussing with their clients. But in this case, the special counsel said to a federal judge, we believe a crime might have taken place in those confidential attorney-client conversations. We need that material. So Evan Corcoran, Trump's former lawyer, was forced to turn over his voice notes, turn over his notebooks. And here's what they found. Trump told his lawyer on May 23rd, 2022, according to this investigation and indictment, I don't want anybody looking. I don't want anybody looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. Well, what happens if we just don't respond at all or don't play ball with the federal subpoena? Wouldn't it be better if we just told them that we don't have anything here? Well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents? This comes directly from evidence between a conversation between Trump and his own lawyer that Trump never thought would get out. Well, it's out here in this indictment.
To summarize, the former president, Donald Trump, is saying to his lawyer, let's just lie and say we don't have the documents.
Effectively, yes. He's saying, what can we do to evade a federal subpoena?
Why is it that the attorney was forced to cooperate and turn over his notes?
Well, we're all forced to comply when a federal judge says you have to turn over your notes. But this is called the crime fraud exception. They believe that criminal intent might have taken place in the attorney-client conversation. Now, as Catherine and Scott have been reporting, this aspect of the case could be something that's crucial in the coming weeks as the Trump team, as we've been told privately and from different sources, tries to challenge and dismiss this indictment. They'll say that maybe the federal judge and the special counsel overstretched, tried too hard to get all of this material. But at the end of the day, because of the sensitivity of these documents, the special counsel, we're told from our federal government sources, is going to argue it was a necessity to break attorney-client privilege and get these documents.
I want to bring in our senior investigative correspondent, Catherine Herridge, because you have been following this 14-month-long investigation from the beginning that is detailed here. There's also audio recordings of some of these conversations that the president had. What do we know about that?
Well, here at CBS News, we've been able to confirm through a source with direct knowledge of the transcript that there was an audio recording at his club in Bedminster, New Jersey. It was the former president and then some colleagues. It was about an autobiography for a former aide. And in the course of that conversation, you hear this ruffling of papers on the audio tape, and he says, oh, if this record here, this could exonerate me. And we've been able to confirm, and I was told it was central to this indictment, that he says, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, you know, but this is still a secret. And this was a Pentagon memo, Nora, that was about attack plans for Iran. He describes it as very confidential, secret. But the reason this matters from the special counsel's point of view is that it's an admission, an acknowledgement that he had the power to declassify, but in this particular case, he understands almost a consciousness of guilt that this is a record that cannot be shared.
And let's just, on this particular, let's drive down on this Bedminster episode where there is that audio tape. This involved a moment in time when Donald Trump was agitated, angry at Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, because Milley had suggested that the president, Donald Trump, had wanted to attack Iran. And so Donald Trump was telling these individuals who were there, who were helping to write a book of Mark Meadows, well, no, it wasn't me, it was him. Here's the plans right here, correct?
You nail it, Nora. Based on our reporting, we're learning today here at CBS News a lot about the motivation, the why. If you're just tuning into this, it seems like, so he had records at his house. Were they classified? He says they weren't.
Well, aren't they his papers? Why can't he have them?
And the question as a reporter you always ask is, okay, well, why did this happen? What was the motivation for Trump to have these documents? Two things we've learned. One, he was angry about the Russia investigation, so he wanted to take some documents in January of 2021 back home to Mar-a-Lago. But in the summer of 2021, he starts doing some post-presidential interviews. And at that same time, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, is in the public profile a lot. He's being portrayed as someone who was heroic in the view of some of his admirers about how he handled January 6th, he handled Trump's final days. So Trump's taking these interviews with reporters, talking to book authors. He didn't talk to us for our book, Peril, but he talked to a lot of other people. And in the course of these interviews, some of which were recorded, he starts bringing out documents and saying, Milley was wrong on this, Milley was wrong on that. I know because some of this stuff I have is classified and I have it right in front of you. And based on our conversations with sources close to Trump, Trump aides were looking at the recorders on the table going, he's talking about classified material. It's now on tape. And now Trump aides who were called before the special counsel were forced to turn over audio tapes of Trump discussing classified material that he knowingly had. If you're a prosecutor, that's golden.
I just want to make one point, because as we look at this sort of through a broader prism of the kind of intelligence equities that were involved, there were equities that originated this information or were impacted by this classified information. So it lists
Explain what you mean.
seven agencies in the U.S. intelligence community had information and intelligence that was impacted by what was retained, according to the special counsel at Mar-a-Lago. And they include the Central Intelligence Agency, so that's human spying, the Department of Defense, we've just mentioned, the National Security Agency. This is electronic intelligence.
I'm getting the chills as you're
describing
this.
The National Geospatial Agency is the mapping agency. The National Reconnaissance Office is the super secret spy satellites that we rely on. The Department of Energy and the Department of State's their own Bureau of Intelligence and Research.
Is it fair to say these are some of America's most important secrets?
Well, it's half of the entire intelligence community was impacted by the retention, the alleged retention of these records.
Look at this.
By the former president.
To build on Catherine's reporting here, page after page in this indictment shows foreign countries, allies, and perhaps adversaries, their capabilities militarily in terms of intelligence possibly compromised by Donald Trump having these documents in his home. You have everything top secret, special handling, foreign intelligence, allies' capabilities, military, foreign intelligence, top secret, annotations from foreign intelligence officials.
And some of them are what's called specially compartmented information. These are programs that literally are on a need-to-know basis. People are read in and read off. It's that highly classified.
I want to bring in Scott McFarland, of course, and of these documents, according to the indictment, it alleges that sometimes they were kept in a ballroom. This is a social club. Mar-a-Lago is not a residence. He does stay there. It is a club. There are people in and out of there. They say also not only in the ballroom, a bathroom and a shower, office space, his bedroom, and a storage room.
And granularly, this charging document connects the movement and the organization of these records to Trump himself. It says he was personally involved with packing the boxes. He directed a storage room be cleared to move the boxes in. He had made this defense earlier that it was the U.S. General Services Administration that was packing up all these boxes. I had nothing to do with it. The charging documents make clear he did have something to do with it. But to emphasize Catherine's point, on the next level, he's sharing, according to the prosecution here, these compartmentalized, secure documents with people who don't have security clearances, and they're not inside one of those secure, compartmentalized information facilities, one of those SCIFs. It's happening right out in open space.
Do you remember when the raid happened at Mar-a-Lago and there was the spreading of all of those documents on the floor, and former President Trump said, look at the mess the FBI made. But on page 14, there's an image of all the documents that were spilled onto the floor at Mar-a-Lago. And this aide, Walt Nada, takes a picture and says, look at what I found. And one of the documents he found, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but it's what's called Five Eyes intelligence. This is intelligence that is shared with the United States by our closest allies. And the reason this matters, Nora, is that it's probably not our information. It's gathered by our friends. So it's not just a compromise for intelligence that's been owned and generated by us, but it's from our allies. So it's the breaking or the weakening of those relationships potentially as well.
So, and again, not just, of course, the taking of these documents, the sharing of them, but then the question about obstruction, of course, and not returning them and obstructing this investigation. I want to bring in our CBS News legal analyst, Ricky Kleeman, who has been poring through this as well. And Ricky, what stands out to you?
Well, I think what's out to you, what Bob Costa alluded to, which really has to do with the false. Because one of the things that we learn at page 40, at count 37, has to do with the fact that it looks like Donald Trump caused his own lawyers to file false declarations about what documents were given and what documents were no longer remaining in the home of Mar-a-Lago or anywhere else. So when you get to that, although that is a minor count in terms of ultimate imprisonment, what it does, because these lawyers, by virtue of what we call the crime fraud exception, that if you as a lawyer have a conversation with your client that then goes into the criminal arena, it breaks attorney-client privilege. Those lawyers would have to be
Ricky, it's difficult to hear you because the Wi-Fi is breaking up. I want to bring in Robert Costa on that point.
And to build on what Ricky was just saying, it has echoes of Watergate. What's that refrain about Watergate we've always heard? It's not just the crime, it's the cover-up. And so much of this indictment is about steps Trump took, in the words of the special counsel, to corruptly scheme, to lie about the documents he had in hand. And to underscore the seriousness of what the former president of the United States is facing, you only have to move to the back of this indictment, where it talks about the max term of imprisonment for all of these different counts. For willful retention of national defense information, 10 years, a decade in prison, max term. For withholding a document or record, 20 years. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, 20 years. This trial, if it happens, could take place during the heart of a presidential campaign next year, or maybe even after the former president wins the presidency again. Under federal law, you can technically serve in the presidency, even if you've been convicted of a crime.
You know, his lawyers have said about these, sorry to go back to the Evan Corcoran notes, that they felt that they were not that damaging to him, that it was a discussion of the left and right boundaries of what was required under the subpoena. But just drilling down into page 34, what it states very specifically is that Trump suggested to Attorney 1 to falsely represent to the FBI and the grand jury that he didn't have the documents. Then it says to conceal the records from this attorney. Then to suggest that the attorney hide or destroy the documents, which would be the destruction of evidence. And then also to say that he was fully cooperating with the grand jury. So the detail here, which we've never heard before, certainly from his attorneys.
Evan Corcoran is a name we're going to be hearing a lot about in the coming months in this country, because I carry around a reporter's notebook. It's small, it fits in your pocket. One thing we picked up in the course of this reporting is Evan Corcoran likes to write notes in large art school-style sketchbooks. And he has a pile of these huge sketchbooks that are blank without the lines in them, and he takes meticulous notes about what Trump has said. And then he goes home at night, supposedly, and listens to records voice notes on his phone about what Trump told him behind the scenes. So you have someone who was hired by Trump not to be a showman, not to be a theatrical lawyer, but to really be a lawyer. And now the special counsel has everything, including testimony from Evan Corcoran about what Trump was saying and doing when he was issued with a subpoena.
We are expected to hear from Jack Smith, the special counsel, at 3 o'clock today, and we will share that with you. Scott, you've also been looking through this.
This case now has an official number. For what it's worth, this historic case is case 23 CR criminal 80-101, and it has 3 initials at the end, AMC. That alludes to the judge to whom this case is assigned. That is Judge Eileen Cannon, whose name might ring a bell. She was the same Trump-appointed judge who helped navigate and oversee the challenges of the search warrant last year. This case goes to her. She has the courthouse, or the seat in the courthouse nearest Mar-a-Lago. There was likely, I'm told, a random wheel run, a kind of a computer mechanized judge selection process, but it is heavily weighted for cases in this part of Florida toward Judge Cannon's courthouse and ultimately to her. He appears Tuesday, 3 p.m. at the federal courthouse in Miami. They'd have it in Miami, I'm told, because it's larger, there's more security there, it has a bigger footprint, and can handle a personal appearance from the former president of the United States. An initial appearance happens at 3 p.m. He has to be there for that. There is likely to be an arraignment immediately after. He'll plead guilty or not guilty. They'll talk about release conditions. It could take just minutes, and we always underscore this. No cameras in the courthouse. No booking photos released by the feds, and it's possible he's brought through a private entrance. This all might be invisible on Tuesday.
All right, Catherine Herridge, Scott McFarland, Robert Costa, thank you. Ricky Kleeman as well. Donald Trump has been charged with willful retention of classified information, withholding a record, conspiracy, false statements, and obstruction, according to this 49-page indictment that was just unsealed. We are talking about significant prison time if Donald Trump is convicted. Our coverage will continue on CBS News Streaming, your local news, and tonight we will have a full wrap-up and analysis on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell in Washington.